This is the human heart. Central to our physical body, our survival, revered by poets throughout history as the emotional center of our being. The place we instinctively touch when asked to point to ourselves. And now, what we have known intuitively is being understood scientifically. Researchers are unlocking a new science of the heart that could change everything we know about health and our interconnected nature. Coherence is a state of balance between heart, mind, and emotions, creating a favorable cascade of neural, hormonal, and biochemical events that benefit the entire body. But this phenomenon not only benefits us personally, it affects everything around us, emitting an electromagnetic field that can be measured up to 3 feet outside of the body. When you are in coherence, your heart resonates at the same frequency as the Earth's magnetic field. This frequency positively affects everything around you. When a group of people are in coherence together, this effect is magnified. Could communities synchronized in coherence lower violence, accelerate cooperation, and global harmony? This is the purpose of the Global Coherence Pulse. If we can measure the impact of thousands of people in coherence at the same time, it could lead to a breakthrough in understanding the full potential of the human heart. All you need to participate is your presence and your heart. To take it to the next level, join the research study by downloading the app and getting an HRV monitor to measure your personal coherence. The world needs it more than ever before. Each human heart is unique and magnificent by itself. But imagine what could be possible when we unify.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for honoring us with your time on this Saturday afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you're joining us from the world. I am Jennifer Cahill. I am so grateful and honored to be a part of the Global Coherence Pulse Planning Committee, along with, of course, Teresa Collins, who is one of the co-founders of the Pulse. And today we're going to have a few very special things happening that I'll share with you about in a moment. If this is your first time joining us for a Pulse, welcome. We would love to know where you're joining us from in the world, so we invite you to put that in the chat so that we can really get a sense of this beautiful, coherent global community we all get to be a part of. The Global Coherence Pulse was birthed in 2020 when the world was at its peak of yearning for coherence. Ever since then, the third Saturday of every month, we have brought together scientists, thought leaders, and luminaries from around the world to share wisdom and to help each and every one of us find ways to pulse the planet with love. Now more than ever, there are things happening, deaths, destruction around the world, as there always have been, and yet so many of us feel it weighing heavily on our heart. That is one of the many reasons that we were inspired to create today's show around dying to wake up. A dear friend of mine, Dr. Mark Golston, who was actually with us in April of this year for the Global Coherence Pulse, recently shared with me that he himself is dying. And rather than being mournful or sad or melancholy, he is doing a series called Dying to Wake Up. I'm Dying to Tell You is the name of his series. And I share this because what if we could all wake up before it's our time to go? What would that be like? What if we could live our lives and cherish every moment and not need to wait to find out that news? Another dear friend of mine just shared with me he's going to have a lung scan soon. And of course, as human beings, facing our own mortality or the mortality of those that we love can be heart-wrenching. So what if we could bring a little love, a little ease to this conversation that has been so taboo for centuries? So today there are going to be two very special things happening. I'm going to introduce you in about 10 minutes to Kristin Singer, who is going to be sharing with us today, and she is a facilitator of the Living Dying Project created by Ram Dass. And as a special interlude in between, we have our dear friend, musical artist, and Emmy award-winning composer, Gary Malkin, who has joined us many times before on the Global Coherence Pulse. And Gary so graciously gifted us the opportunity to begin today's pulse with a special musical composition. It's a meditative musical moment for about 7 or 8 minutes. And we're going to go into that today. And it actually has Ram Dass's voice to Gary Malkin's composition. It's part of a beautiful series that Gary has created called Graceful Passages. And you can definitely look that up and find more about that on Gary's website. Now, before we do, for those of you who have joined us before, you know that we are in partnership, of course, with HeartMath, and we love HeartMath and the whole team over there. So if you do happen to have a heart focus monitor, a heart rate monitor, there are going to be two opportunities today. The first of which is going to be here in a moment, where you can use the Global Coherence Pulse app. And even if you don't have a heart rate monitor, there's a way that you can use it by putting your finger on it if you want to see what impact your pulsing the planet with love is going to have. So we'll do that now with Gary Malkin's musical composition to Ram Dass's voice. Then we'll come back and I will bring on Kristin Singer, our special guest for today, and talk about how it was that she had her profound wake up and became a part of the Living Dying Project. And then Kristin will close us today with a beautiful heartfelt meditation. So without further ado, I'm going to go and hand it over to our team to share with you this beautiful musical meditative experience with Gary Malkin. Thank you.
Be here now. Don't anticipate. Don't yearn for things of the past. Let the past go with forgiveness. And let the future go with no anticipation. Each of us contains a being that doesn't die and a being that does die. Everything must change, except the soul. Your preparation for dying is done by identifying with your soul, not your ego. Identify with your soul now. There are realms other than the one we are meeting on. Realms where we meet the souls that we have known in the past as just souls. We won't meet them in their clothing of mother or father or uncle or aunt. Then, sensual planes. Planes with color, music, planes which have no form. This plane is where all of it starts. This plane is the womb, the beginning of things. This plane is ecstatic. It's the ultimate creativity. Dying is the most important moment that exists in any incarnation. It is important that you not be so overwhelmed by the processes of dying. I wish you a process for dying that doesn't overwhelm you. I wish you a moment of dying that you can be conscious of. I wish you a future incarnation in a plane of incredible light.
I wish you all a plane of beautiful light. What gorgeous words to live by as we step into this space of inquiry around how can we wake up before we die. I would love for a few of you maybe to put in the chat just what's present for you after that beautiful, beautiful musical meditative experience in collaboration between Ram Dass and Emmy Award-winning producer Gary Malkin. I'd love to hear what you're thinking and feeling in this moment. And I would also love to bring on at this time our special esteemed guest who I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the last year, Kristin Singer. And Teresa, I see in the chat, you missed it and you hope there's a replay. There will definitely be a replay. It will, of course, be on our YouTube channel and will be on the Global Coherence Pulse site. Carol shares tears of joy, beautiful light, peace. Thank you for all of you for sharing your thoughts. Now, I would love to tell you a little bit about who Kristin Singer is and why we chose to have her on today's Pulse. Kristin Singer is a certified yoga therapist and Reiki master who is supporting clients on the journey of transformation and spiritual awakening. She has been a volunteer and board member for the Living Dying Project since 2014. She came to the project after a profound, life-changing encounter with death, where she experienced an 8-hour state of unconditional love, while her physical body struggled to survive. This experience served to deepen Kristin's spiritual journey and became a catalyst for her own deep emotional healing. Kristin's background in Western psychology, combined with her rich experience of Eastern philosophy and experience of unconditional love, give her a unique perspective from which to serve. Kristin, thank you so much for being here, my friend. We'll go ahead and have you unmute.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. And what a beautiful opening passage with Ram Dass. Ah, that was so amazing. What a way to start.
I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. Thank God I thought to grab tissue. I was like, I'm going to need tissue for this poll. And our souls passed and crossed several, God, probably 8 or 9 months ago now. And I just felt so inspired when you shared with me about the Living Dying Project and hearing your mission. Can you share with us a little bit about this transformational journey that you had? And then we can talk about the Living Dying Project and how it's serving humanity.
Thank you. Yeah. So, like many of us, I had a story that contained everything completely falling apart at one point. So I had a beautiful life that I thought was intact and real. And I began a year where I first lost a job of 10 years. And then by the end of that year, my marriage also fell apart. And my husband left for another woman. And at that point, everything I had been trying to do to hold myself together completely fell. And I went through a very deep state of anxiety and fear and depression, and what I can only call now as, a full-on ego break with who I had been. Everything that had defined me was gone, and I had to, I was raw. And in an effort, I had been studying Buddhism for that year. And in an effort to find forgiveness for my soon to be ex-husband, because I felt like that was the thing in the way, that was what was causing my suffering. My sister and I went on a journey to Costa Rica to a surf camp. It was a surf and yoga camp. And I felt like if I could learn to surf the waves of the ocean, then maybe I could learn how to surf the waves of life. And it was beautiful. I got into the water. I had my surfboard. It's my very first time doing this. And I miraculously jumped up onto the surfboard and surfed a wave, and it was amazing and glorious. And as I, came off the board into the water and pulled myself up to have a real cheer from myself to say that was great, the surfboard came, hit me in the throat, and crushed my windpipe. And I went down. And I remember being under that water and knowing that if I didn't use everything I had to stand up, that I would drown. And I pulled myself up and dragged myself to the shore and tried to yell for help, only to realize I no longer had a voice. I no longer could speak. So as the story unfolded, there was a big storm in Costa Rica that day. They couldn't helicopter me out. I was in a remote village, and the most they could do was get an ambulance. And they had a doctor from the village, from the clinic, in the ambulance with me to provide an emergency tracheotomy if needed. He sat beside me. My sister was there. And while I was in the ambulance, this huge storm came, and it took us 8 hours to get to the hospital. During that time, I was throwing up blood, throwing up blood, throwing up blood. And somehow, while my body was going through that, I went into a state of what I can only call as bliss. I saw what my body was experiencing, but I found myself in this state of unconditional love. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced before. I'm not even sure I knew what love was before that experience. And while I was there in that experience, the shame, all of the shame, all of the stuff that I held against myself, everything that I hated about myself, everything I thought I had done wrong, said wrong, all of my mean-spiritedness came in. But it came into this field of love. And all I could feel was a sense of compassion for my own humanity. And it was so profound. I realized there was no one else for me to forgive except myself. And I needed to find that understanding. And I guess I had to find it through this way. And that experience of unconditional love completely transformed me as a person. It's something that I continue to integrate every day. And I realized in that moment that this was a state of being that I could not stay in, that it was a place that I could practice learning how to touch again and again, one moment at a time. And my work became that of helping other people feel that kind of unconditional love so as to face their shame, guilt, fear. And that took me on a path to the Living Dying Project as a volunteer. And it's been with the Living Dying Project that, when I called and made contact with Ramdev, Dale Borglum, he said to me, if you take this on, this is a spiritual practice, that you are not doing this in support of the dying person. It's something that you're doing also in support of you, in support of your awakening. And that has been such a beautiful way of holding this, that I can't take myself out of the picture. I'm part of it. And, when we're in service, we often think I'm in service to the other, but it's not that way in the Living Dying Project. It is that we are all growing and expanding spiritually together, and that working with people who are on the path of dying, critical illness, is a way for me to practice unconditional love. It's a way for me to practice falling in love with another person so as to create that space for them to find ease and compassion for their humanity, so that they can use dying as a way to awaken.
That is so beautiful. Thank you, Kristin. And I want to dive a little more deeply into what the Living Dying Project does. It really touched my heart when you first shared with me about it. And still, as you're sharing now, I'm tearing up. Having grown up with a mother who is an oncology nurse, I remember often my mom would share with me, she did this for 45 years, that she would have these patients who she would get to know intimately. And I'd say, Mom, how's Cheryl doing? And then she'd say, well, honey, Cheryl passed. And, I so deeply respect and admire people like you and my mom who have this capacity, and all the care workers out there in the world and the people who are out there in the fields, to be able to hold that space. Can you share, in case this is the first time that somebody's hearing of the Living Dying Project, what it is, in case people want to learn more?
Thank you. The Living Dying Project is an organization that provides volunteer support, free support to people who are dying, have critical illness, people who are grieving, caregivers. We provide that one-on-one, where people can actually have a one-on-one experience to help guide them and hold them through this, the idea of these deep hardships being awakening journeys. And there are also support groups, free support groups that we offer. So there's, one that Ram Dave runs every other Saturday, a beautiful spiritual support group for the entire community, again, free. And three others are one that I run, which is a support group for people with critical illness, which is tomorrow. And there's one for caregivers tomorrow. And there's one for people who are grieving. And these are twice a month. And it's easy to sign up on livingdying.org, our website, where there's a calendar and a schedule to give you all of the information that you need. And, we right now, one of the interesting things is we have a lot of volunteers who are eager to work with people, and we are wanting more clients. So if you know someone, or if you need any sort of assistance, we're here. We're available. We're ready. This is a nonprofit organization. It's completely run by donations. So while we love donations, it is not necessary. But we do want to serve, and we want to be here, and we want to walk this path with you together.
Thank you, Kristin. And before we dive into the meditation that you're going to cultivate and create for us, I would love to know, what is a piece of advice that you have around waking up before we die, based on your experience with the Living Dying Project and your own experience waking up?
It happens moment by moment. It's something that we're doing in this moment right now, all together. It's not something that we're trying to accomplish. It's right here. And it's all about, for me, keeping my heart open. Keeping my heart open here. And more importantly, keeping my heart open to whatever is arising with myself, with another, with the world. Can I recognize that when my heart is open and I keep it open to the pain and the suffering, that then my heart expands, and my heart expands, and my heart expands, so that it is holding everything, so that I become someone who holds everything in love. So the words, even this, that's what I play in my head again and again. Even this. Can I keep my heart open to even this?
It's so interesting you say even this, Kristin. A game I like to play is a game called How Does Life Get Any Better Than This? That a thought leader named Gary Douglas, the co-founder of Access Consciousness, taught me. So a dear friend of mine was listening to an interview I did that touched on this topic a couple of months ago. And she said, Jen, I would love to play the game, How Does It Get Any Better Than This? And you inspired me. I'm going to do it every day. And I said, well, how about this? Why don't we text each other that phrase every day in case one of us forgets? We can remind each other. And so I shared this with her. And about a week ago, when things were just really at their peak with what's happening in the Middle East right now, she said, Jen, can I still say, how does it get any better than this? So I called her and I said, in life, there's so many chances where we can say, how does life get any better than this? A baby is born, a miracle happens. And sometimes in life, we lose a loved one or something terrible happens. And in those times, I invite us to also ask, how can life get any better than this? And it's the context with which you say it. So I just felt called to share that. And I will share with you something my dear friend Mark Golston, who, as I mentioned, was on the Pulse with us earlier this year, said to me when he was sharing that, Jen, I don't know how long I have left. And he is a man who prevented tens of thousands, if not more, of suicides around the world. And what Mark shared with me on one of our calls is he said, Jennifer, originally, I wanted to provide for my family so I could take us all on vacations, including the grandkids. But you know what I've come to realize? If you can live life vicariously through others, you don't need to go anywhere. And I share that because no matter what our circumstances are, we don't know. You might be tuning in from a remote place where maybe this place you've always wanted to go or person you've always wanted to see. And yet we still have this capacity to experience life down to our very last breath. And so, as I share that, Kristin, I invite you to take us on this internal journey into a guided meditation. And as a reminder, for those of you who are interested, you can go on the Global Coherence Pulse app, not Glovo, but Global Coherence Pulse. I live in Europe, so we have that. And so you can go ahead and go on there. And if you want to go ahead and pulse your energy with us and pulse the planet, pulse it to somebody who maybe is dying or needs strength, or to a part of the world. We never know how long we have. A friend of mine just lost her 2-year-old granddaughter, and we don't know whether we have another day, another month, another 10 years. And so let's just pulse the planet for every one of us who has the ability to breathe right now and send love. Let's do it while we can. I hand it over to you, Kristin.
Beautiful, Jennifer. Thank you. So let's begin by feeling ourselves here in this space together, finding a place that's comfortable where you can close your eyes. And we'll imagine that the energy that's been up in our head begins to flow down through the spine, landing in our root at the base of the pelvic floor as we ground our bodies to the earth and we ground ourselves into the body. And begin to breathe into your root, feeling your connection down to the earth, through your seat. And invite a sense of safety, recognizing that in this moment you are safe. That it is safe to relax. Feeling yourself soften. Feeling yourself arrive here more deeply in an embodied way. And then once we're grounded, we invite the energy to flow up into our bellies like a ball of light. Breathing in and out of the belly. Softening through the belly. And gathering your energy from all of the places that it has streamed to. Imagine reeling that energy back into your center. And as you do this, the light in your belly begins to glow. The light of 1,000 suns. Connecting with your power, your courage, and once we're grounded and centered, we invite that energy to rise up into the heart. Connecting with your heartbeat, and begin to breathe with your heartbeat. Softening into your exhale. We invite our hearts to open. Making space for whatever is here to be just as it is. As we soften into our heartbeats, our bodies coming into coherence, and our heartbeats beginning to synchronize with each other as a single heartbeat pulsing together. Feeling this circle of love with our open hearts. Our hearts synchronizing with the heartbeat of the earth. And as we inhale, receiving this love, and as we exhale, we send a wave of love to the whole planet. We inhale and receive this wave of love. We exhale and we share it. Our hearts expanding to include everyone and everything without exception. As we invite a deep trust in the unfolding. That everything is here serving our expansion into love. Connecting to the divine within yourself. Connecting to your own power of love. Opening with compassion to your human experience. Compassion for your whole being. And welcome any message or intention set a shared intention to practice keeping our hearts open to even this. Yes, when my heart is open, I can trust myself to respond with love. Savoring these last few moments, resting in your beautiful heart. And we'll offer the merits of this practice to all beings everywhere, that all beings may feel love. Namaste. And victory to the light within.
That was really extraordinary, Kristin. Thank you so much. It was magical. I love how we all had the opportunity to bring our hearts together. And wow, tears were streaming down my cheeks as you were sharing about radiating the waves of love and then allowing those to return to us. Thank you for doing that. Thank you so much. What's present for you right now, Kristin?
Just want to share that we can utilize our pain, our suffering as our journey of awakening. That instead of fighting the waves of life, we can learn to surf them. We can utilize our hardships as a spiritual warrior to challenge ourselves, to keep our hearts open to even the unimaginable.
Yes, I think it's such a good reminder that things, even if we can't fathom how and why they're happening, somehow, some way, things are being orchestrated for our soul's greatest unfoldment. And we forget when we came in and we incarnated this time, often that we chose these obstacles, that our souls said, please challenge me. Let me see if I can still hold a space of love, even when I'm in the deepest pain. My sister once gave me a bracelet with a charm on it, and it said, let this be your greatest task. Let this be your greatest joy, to give people back to themselves, even in their darkest hour, especially in that hour. And I acknowledge you, Kristin, because that is who you are and what you're doing for the world. So thank you.
That's so beautiful. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome, my friend. Well, we encourage you to go to livingdying.org. I invite any of you to share. We are getting lots of thank yous in the chat. Any of you who would like to share what's present for you, go ahead and put that in the chat right now. And would love to acknowledge how everybody's feeling after this beautiful hour we've had together. And I'd love to invite on, if she's feeling up for it, Teresa Collins to share about some of the miraculous things that we have happening in the Global Coherence Pulse community and our other communities, such as the Global Oneness Summit that started today, a special art and science of creating Cultivating Coherence conference happening next week. We have so many wonderful things happening. Teresa, were you game to join us right now? And if not, I can go ahead and share for her. Okay, so what I will go ahead and do then is I will put in the chat, we have a few wonderful things coming up. And Kristin, just really quickly, I know you mentioned you have a group you facilitate. Where would people find out about that? Is that on the livingdying.org?
Yes, it is. So you can check we have a calendar there, which has all of the information. My group is tomorrow at from 10 to 11:30 Pacific time. There's a Zoom link that you can access. So you can find me there. And you can also find all of the other groups and the links to those groups on our site. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kristin. And Dory shares, this has been a very soft and blissful experience. Thank you all for your presence, especially Kristin for the beautiful meditation. And thanks you. Carol says this is much needed. Gloria shares she can feel the light and compassion, and Barbara and others thank us as well. So I'd love to just share a few little things that are going on. I'm going to go ahead and put Gary Malkin's information in the chat for everyone. Gary is the award-winning producer, composer, speaker, incredible human being. If you're not familiar with Gary's work, I highly recommend checking him out, and I put it in the chat. And of course, you can see it there on the screen as well. And coming up as well, we have the Global Oneness Summit, which is incredible. I think there are close to 50 thought leaders from around the world, including our very own Teresa Collins. Teresa and Roland and Julie and I did a panel on coherence. And you, of course, have Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton and Shamini Jian and so many wonderful people, and it's free to join. So you can still sign up for that. And I put that in the chat for everyone, as well as the connection field. I'm going to put 2 links here. So there are always amazing things happening in the connection field. And that is one of Teresa's many babies that she is birthing in the world to bring greater coherence to us all. And finally, we have our very own Roland McCready. So Dr. Roland McCready, who is part of the Global Coherence Pulse Committee. And of course, we've had him here on the Pulse with us many a time. So Roland is co-hosting the Art and Science of Cultivating Coherence Conference, which is happening next weekend. I had the privilege and honor of joining Roland for a panel for that. And actually, if you follow me on Instagram, Roland made his debut. This is pretty unbelievable, but in order to promote this conference, you have to know Roland to know he's kind of like shy about social media. But Roland actually came on and did his first ever Instagram Live. So you can follow me at Jen Hill Speaker. I'll put it in the chat for you on Instagram, or you can just go on there and find it. And you'll find about 2 days ago, there was a special Instagram Live where Roland shared about the art of coherence and the science of it as well. So that was a fun 20-minute interview that we did live on Instagram. So without further ado, I think we can go ahead and close today. Teresa, I'll wait and see if you want to add anything, my friend. And let's all send a little extra love to Teresa, if you don't mind. Teresa was a little bit under the weather this week. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of sharing your hearts through your hands, maybe put your hands out in front of you. And let's all radiate a little bit of extra love and healing energy to Teresa and anybody else who is in your thoughts or prayers right now. Maybe somebody needs strength, love, physical healing, whatever it is. Let's just imagine that we're coming together right now and pulsing all of those, including Teresa, with the healing that they desire. Beautiful. My final invitation for each and every one of us as we go off into our weekends, whether it's your evening and you're in Europe or Asia, or if it's your morning or midday in the United States, is to ask yourself, how can you live life today? I'm not a huge country music person, but there is one of my favorite songs by Garth Brooks called Live Like You're Dying. How can every one of us go out and live our life, taste food a little bit more deeply, forgive someone who we've been holding on to animosity towards? One of my favorite prayers for forgiveness, if you're not aware of it, is called the Ho'oponopono prayer, where you say out loud while thinking of somebody who has either passed on or could still be with us, the following phrase, and you don't say it to them, just while thinking of them. I apologize. Please forgive me. Thank you for being in my life so that I may love you. It is one of my favorite healing and forgiveness prayers that I've ever learned, and I still use it very regularly. So whatever it looks like, see if you can live. And as Deepak shared, Deepak Chopra is a friend, and he shared with me recently an interview he did in Greece. And the Pulitzer Prize winning journalist asked him, so Deepak, what are your thoughts on death? And Deepak, of course, in his jovial manner shares, I am excited about it every night. I reflect back and I spend 2 hours before bed, imagining and looking back at my entire life from childhood to present. Because if we can do that, if we can live so that way we don't have to have these earth-shattering experiences, and if we can live like we are dying, if we can live in that moment, if we can forgive and appreciate everything and be excited, as Ram Dass shared at the beginning of today's Pulse, that dying is one of the greatest days, if not the greatest day of our life in any incarnation. So I'll leave you with that. And I thank you for your love, your listening, and your heart. Thank you.